Good afternoon, Americans. This is your favorite alien in Poor Moose Baba here on the afternoon of Wednesday, October 14th, 2020. Well, I wanted to do a video and entitled it Aliens' View of the U.S. Election. Well, as your favorite alien, I got an outside view on your elections here since I can't interfere in them. Heck, hey, even when I try, you guys won't take it. So, see, it doesn't matter what I do. Because I said John Kasich and Tulsi Gabbers. And will I see one vote there for them? I doubt it. Because you guys just don't have the brains to vote for something good. And that's why you cease to be a nation. And a lot of people are saying, what do you mean DFA? We never heard the DFA. You lived in the DFA for over 40 years. It's the disunited factions of America. Yeah, you say, hey, we got two-party system. Really? You got a whole bunch of people that have different views in the parties. Like AOC and Mr. Schumer and Miss Pelosi don't see eye to eye on anything. Except that we are Democrats. But what does that mean? They forgot what the meaning of the Democratic Party is. Same with the Republicans. Trump and the deplorables are way to the right of most people. That's why you see Jeff Flake, he left, and most people are leaving the Senate and the House. Because they are moderates. And they are used to having compromises with the other side, which, because of the factions of both parties, you don't have that anymore. And you should have consensus, not compromise. You have deteriorated instead of going forward. You're saying, oh yeah? How have we deteriorated? Well, you used to have compromises. You don't even have that no more. You should have had consensus. And look at the elections that you have, starting with 1960, 60 years ago. They followed the tradition that has been long followed 100 years before, where the guy that you didn't like, you put him where it didn't hurt the most, the vice presidency. And they came back to haunt them, didn't they? Going back to uh, William Harrison, who put John Tyler in that position. Well, look what happened. John Tyler took over because William Henry Harrison killed himself with pneumonia by speaking for 2.5 hours in the rain. And John Tyler was a very unpopular president. And then you had Mr. Taylor, or General Zachary Taylor, rough and ready, as they used to call him. Well, Millard Fillmore was in the same position of John Tyler a few years earlier. Same party, Whigs. Nobody liked him. So they put in as the vice president so he wouldn't do any damage. Well, Mr. Rough and Ready had enough with the Mexican War and he passed away in 1850. Yeah? And what happened in 1850? The Compromise of 1850, which Mr. Taylor didn't like. Well, Mr. Fillmore passed that, and it cost 10 years later the Civil War. Yes. Then you had the unified ticket, the Union ticket in 1864, where you had President Lincoln running, and they put a Democrat that they needed to call it unified, so they put Mr. Andrew Johnson from Tennessee in. Oh, yeah. Same thing happened, didn't it? Yes. Lincoln got assassinated. Johnson, well, he almost got himself impeached, didn't he? Because of the radical Republicans. And whatever Mr. Lincoln had in mind for the restoration of the United States, well, it didn't happen. And the factions happened. So from 1865 to now, you've had factions that have gotten even worse every century. Same with 1880, when you had James A. Garfield Chester and Alan Arthur, they didn't even like them. Because remember, back in 1854, Chester Alan Arthur, as a upstart attorney, represented a certain lady in New York of color. And she won her case, predating Rosa Parks by 101 years. African Americans? You never mention her, do you? Look her up. And the guy who won a case for her was Chester Alan Arthur. Then again, in 1900, the Republicans made the same stupid mistake. They put in Theodore Roosevelt, which nobody liked, as the vice president. Oh, let's get him out of there. Yeah, right. And within a year, William McKinley was assassinated, and he became Teddy, with the big stick Roosevelt. Oh, yeah, which forever destroyed the American system. Yeah. Then again, in 1920, the Republicans did it again with Warren G. Harding. They put Calvin Coolidge, a guy who, well, never did a thing. And what happened? It happened again. Mr. Warren G. Harding died under mysterious circumstances in 1923, and Calvin Coolidge, who didn't know a thing, became president. And he, over the 1923 to 29, he didn't understand America, and it divulged into the great crash of 1929. Yes. And everybody says, where's Hoover? Hoover was only there for 6 months. It was Coolidge from the last 23 to 29 that caused the problem. Yeah, really. And Mr. Coolidge was so bad that Mr. Hallis and the Galloping Ghost went to see him. And his assistant says, oh, Mr. President, this is Mr. Hallis and the Galloping Ghost, Red Grange, from the Chicago Bears. And Mr. President Coolidge said, quote, well, I never liked animal acts, but thank you for coming to see me. Yeah, right. And then again in 1960, where John F. Kennedy didn't like Lyndon Johnson, but he needed his help to win the presidency. So he put him as vice president. In 1963, Mr. Johnson was ready to quit. He was so drunk and disastrous in November 22nd, 1963, that he was so down and out, he was ready to quit. And he became President Johnson, which unfortunately, because of the Kennedy administration, cost him Vietnam. The poor Johnson hastened his death in 1973 because he had to deal with it. So you see, Americans, and here you are in another election, 2020, where you got Trumpy Dumpy and Hensy Pensy running for re-election, which they have destroyed this government in the last 4 years. And then you got creepy Joe and Kamala. He's a segregationist Harris, referring to President or Mr. Biden when she was running against him, as his vice president. Put him there so she don't cause any problems. Now, Biden is not fit to be president any more than Mr. Trumpy Dumpy is. And whatever happens, it's going to cause a coup d'etat coming up. So you see, Americans, this is your decision. Do you want John Kasich and Tulsi Gabbard to save you, or do you want to be the DFA? Disunited Factions of America. This is your favorite alien, and Boomers Baba. Good day.